America's farmers provide food, feed, and fuel for the world. Now those agricultural commodities could become the building blocks for nearly everything we use, as the bioeconomy is on display during National Egg Week.
Nobody's going to believe what's going to take place in the next 10 and 20 years.
We've got an exclusive look at Governor Jim Pillen's travels.
Some of this automation that's coming on different products is also designed for ease of use for these operators.
Later, we check out the latest in precision ag from John Deere. Closing out National Egg Week, it's time to grow. Nebraska farmers produce much more than corn and beef, also the building blocks for the coming bioeconomy as companies invest billions.
Cool, so you keep all the drivers smiling when they...
Overshadowed by ethanol, today Governor Jim Pillen sees a world of possibilities fueled by Nebraska agriculture in the future.
Nobody's going to believe what's going to take place in the next 10 and 20 years for Nebraska agriculture and for our entire economy because of the incredible opportunities of the new bioeconomy.
As Chief Ethanol nears its 40th anniversary in Hastings, the plant is taking steps to lower its carbon footprint.
Carbon capture facilities at both our Hastings and our Lexington facility. So we produce about 125 million gallons a year. We'll have one at both plants.
Across the road, egg giant Cargill partners with Love Truck Stops to turn beef plant waste into diesel fuel, a new generation of fuel production.
We would look at Nebraska as the leader when it comes to value-added agriculture and just what's being done here and the support of the state as well as the local governments.
And the governor says agriculture can provide the building blocks for next-generation aviation fuel, plus plastics and much more, the so-called bioeconomy.
We've got over $4 billion being invested in 5 different plants.
And that takes farmers embracing sustainability.
They are at the forefront of precision agriculture techniques and doing climate-smart practices.
We are making so many things from corn today already, and we're just getting started.
And we had a chance to talk to the governor about his tax plan.
Property taxes are so out of whack that you don't even need to own property to be adversely affected.
It's become one of the governor's signature lines. Property taxes are out of whack. In January, he proposed a 40% cut. How to get there has been the question, as the governor has been working with lawmakers.
Working really hard with our partners in the unicameral, and stay tuned. We're going to get it done. We're going to have an impact that's going to impact Nebraska for generations.
The package now under consideration would raise the state sales tax up to 1 cent, drawing the ire of one conservative group.
The tax increases in this package would be the largest tax increase in Nebraska state history.
John Gage previously worked for Pillen, but is now trying to send a message that lawmakers shouldn't raise taxes without cutting spending.
We are launching a 6-figure campaign to take on this package and educate the public that this is a bad deal for them.
Pillen calls the package transformational, but Americans for Prosperity calls it a tax shift, not tax relief.
We were promised at the beginning of the session that there would be a hard cap, that future property taxes, they would not go up except with inflation. Now we're seeing with this that it's 6%. We're going to get 6% increases every year.
Gage said his group will be making calls and sending mailers as he compares this to tax policy in states like California and New Jersey. Americans for Prosperity advocates for tax relief and often agrees with Governor Pillen. But in this case, they've drawn a line.
A bad deal's a bad deal. Let's vote against the bad deal.
Grand Island produces hamburgers and a lot of farm equipment. Not the green, but the red variety used the world over, but a lot of the youngest islanders don't connect the dots. That's the mission of Hall County Egg Day, bringing the sights and smells of the farm to 4th graders. For more than 20 years, volunteers have shared their animals and their insights. They find many of these kids who have parents who work in egg-related industries and don't make the connection to agriculture's importance.
We have like Case New Holland, we have Swift, we have MFS. I mean, there's Chief. There's so many that are all related to ag. And if we can kind of tie the pieces together and kind of explain, this is where this comes from, then that kind of puts that seed in their head and like, oh, that's where that came from.
If nothing else, they hope kids start to see how agriculture affects everyday life. There are the obvious connections like the food they enjoy, but organizers also hope kids begin to see the economics of how their family may very well make a living because of agriculture, and how they too may someday find a career on or off the farm. In agriculture, margins are razor thin. Manpower, it's tight, and the hours are limited. So autonomous machines promise to be a revolution in agriculture.
So we're in the cab of an X9.
Refrigerator,
Fill up with all my treats and snacks.
leather seats, and 5 cup holders. Farming is pretty comfy on the John Deere X9.
That cab is probably the most spacious cab I've ever seen in my life. I can about take a nap in there and not even know it.
The day is coming, farmers can take a nap worry-free.
We've seen the roadmap for a while, and that roadmap is headed towards autonomy.
Machines that run themselves may be a few years out, but the new models are increasingly packed with technology.
We're taking a huge step forward on the combine side as far as what these machines can do on their own, what they can learn, and what they can see before they ever get to the field.
Facing extreme weather, a shrinking labor pool, and high input costs, the ability to work faster at a lower cost per acre is critical.
Help is getting harder and harder to come by, and even if you have help, getting skilled help is a challenge too. And as these machines get more and more advanced with the technology, the ease of use also has to follow it. So some of this automation that's coming on different products is also designed for ease of use for these operators, so there's a shorter learning curve.
Nick Jacobson of Acres Equipment says a harvest crew that's 10% more efficient could shave 4 or 5 days off, saving time and fuel.
The margins are more important than ever, so it's really time for operators to pay attention to the details.
More and more machines will be built with artificial intelligence built in.
This is a simulator we built.
The guts may change, but it's still John Deere green.
There's just tractors for days. Tractors for days.
A new era begins at the University of Nebraska with selection of a new president. Agriculture, first and foremost of the university's mission. The land-grant campus in Lincoln in particular, but that alone causes some headaches with research funding. Learn more.
We're not on the moon, so it's not a step for mankind, but it sure as hell is a step for Nebraska.
It's no moonshot for the university, but a move that could keep Nebraska in orbit with its peers, as the Board of Regents chooses Dr. Jeff Gold to lead the university system.
Dr. Gold from the Med Center would be an absolute dynamite fit.
Gold has served the state in multiple ways, as chancellor both at the Med Center and university's Omaha campus.
He's been a friend of Nebraska. He's really a friend of Kearney.
And importantly, he could be the guy to raise the university's research profile. For a century, Nebraska was among the nation's elite research schools as a member of the American Association of Universities. Shortly after joining the Big Ten, the AAU kicked Nebraska out. In the changing landscape of big-time college sports, the Huskers want to be seen as equal with their peers and rejoin the AAU.
That's a critical piece of this puzzle. And Jeff Gold has the background, he has the relationships and the stature to help lead that effort.
Nebraska scientists have grumbled the AAU doesn't value agricultural research highly enough, but the university also separated medical research when reporting dollars, something they're changing.
I think getting our research combined between the flagship campus here in Lincoln and UNMC campus is huge, especially as we evaluate how best to regain entry into the AAU.
Regents say the university system is at a crossroads. Gold has academic credentials and Nebraska connections.
The best candidate available.
It may be the world's largest collection of horse-drawn conveyances, and it could be yours. We'll learn about the Bill Bosch collection later. Up next, planting in a no-till operation.
Hi, I'm Quentin Daly, and I'm proud to be a second-generation rancher from right here in Dawson County. It's an exciting time here on the ranch and all across our great state as cattlemen and cattlewomen are welcoming new babies into the world this spring. So for me and my little buddy here, we want to wish you a happy Ag Week.
Planting season will soon be here, and if you're planting in a no-till situation, we talked with Nebraska Extension for some tips.
When a farmer calls me and says, how do I handle all that trash? I already know he doesn't understand no-till. For me, no-till is residue. That crop residue is protecting the soil. And so how do you handle the residue? You actually start with the combine. You have to spread the residue at harvest. If that residue is spread, and then no-till becomes a lot easier when it comes to our planters.
Certainly, though, there are benefits to a no-till operation.
Oh, yes, especially for your Nebraska listeners, that no-till, that mulch to keep the sun and wind off the soil surface really saves water. If I'm an irrigator, I can save 5-6 inches of water easily. If I'm a dry lander, that 5 or 6 inches of water times 10 to 12 bushels per acre inch is an extra 50-60 bushels of corn. And so again, we love that residue out there.
Last couple of springs, we've seen some really windy days where we just see topsoil blowing for miles. We've seen the snow this winter blowing. But I can't imagine, if not for some residue left in the field, what things could really look like.
Well, it's true that residue does keep that force of the wind off the soil surface, but as such, I want to leave that residue attached. There's an emphasis right now to sell equipment, a high-speed disc or vertical tillage. They say, I'm not damaging the soil because I'm not going very deep. They're still cutting the residue loose. They're still loosening the soil. And actually, this wintertime right now, I love driving Interstate 80. Look at the snow in the road ditches. You'll have white snow where there's standing residue, stop the blowing dirt. The fields that have been tilled is black snow because all that soil has moved. Then there's some fields, there's no snow in the ditch. That's because the corn stalks are already standing knee-high and catching all the snow.
Maybe if you haven't planted into a no-till situation, you're moving that direction, what are some of the things maybe equipment-wise you need to be thinking about?
Well, I've been working in no-till since 1978, and the failures back then was just basically not enough weight to get through the residue into the untilled soil. Good thing is equipment's changed a lot since then. But I'll tell people the first thing is cut or handle the residue. I like to cut it. Second is penetrate the soil desired seeding depth. Get that seed down into good soil moisture, not in that layer of residue. Put it in the soil. Third is establish seed to soil contact. Get moisture into the seed, get the roots into the soil. And fourth is close that seed V. Protect it there to get it really growing. If I pay attention to those 4 steps, I can evaluate any planter, drill, air seeder. Do I need help cutting? Do I need help penetration? Do I need help whatever? And you got to do that before you go out and buy an attachment.
Maybe once you get a little more comfortable, what do you see as the benefits to sticking with it then?
Well, the benefits in the long term, once you're with it for 3, 4, 5 years, you start building a healthier soil, better soil structure. A better structure allows water to soak in rather than run off. When it comes to irrigation, you can put on a larger amount less often. And it's an advantage because the more often you get the canopy wet, the more evaporation you have, the more disease you have. So again, if I can build the structure, soak the water in, and that takes continuous no-till, every crop every year. If I come along with tillage one year, that's an eraser and I start over. And so 3 years minimum, 5, then you start calling yourself a no-tiller.
Kyle's in next with our Grow Weather Outlook.
Happy National Agriculture Week. I'm Mark McCarg and I'm president of Nebraska Farm Bureau, and it is a privilege for me to represent farmers and ranchers all across Nebraska that are some of the hardest working men and women that I know. They provide food, fuel, and fiber for our nation. You know, Nebraska agriculture drives the economy of Nebraska, and here in Nebraska, agriculture grows Nebraska.
Hi, I'm Carl McCarg. And I'm Rex McCarg. 2 things I'm very happy about with farmers and on my farm is that I get to go irrigate the crops we grow. I also love driving the disc or pulling the strip tillering. Without farmers, we would have no. Without farmers and ranchers, we would have no food. I like food.
Well, this week's drought monitor that was released this past Thursday morning, and as you can expect, still got some pretty dry conditions across much of eastern Nebraska and a good portion of Kansas as well. Take a closer look at the state of Kansas, where it's kind of gone both ways this past week. No drought category now stands at roughly 34% of the state there. and abnormally dry, about 66% of the state in that category. About a 4.5% reduction, unfortunately, compared to last week's report. Moderate drought has gone the other way a little bit in the improvement category, about a 1% improvement there, which now stands about 25.75%. Severe drought, still got a couple pockets of that across the state, about 1.89%. So still no extreme or exceptional drought across the state of Kansas or state of Nebraska either. Looking up to Nebraska now, no drought now stands at about 61.25%, and abnormally dry now stands about 38.75%. Unfortunately, a 6.25% reduction compared to last week. And of course, parts of northeast Nebraska getting back added into that abnormally dry category. Moderate drought still stands at about 24.5%, and severe drought still at about 12% there across parts of east central Nebraska. Looking at the newly released April temperature outlook, mainly average temperatures for all of Kansas and really all of Nebraska as well. This extreme northeastern sliver of Nebraska may be expecting slightly above average temperatures for April, but otherwise I would expect pretty average temperatures for the next month. Otherwise, precipitation totals for the month of April, expecting relatively above average precipitation totals for much of Nebraska and much of Kansas as well, southwestern Nebraska, maybe the southwestern slivers of Nebraska as well, only expecting average totals. So good to see those above average totals for the most part. Otherwise, the next 3-month outlook, that was also released this past week as well. And do have slightly above average temperatures expected for eastern parts of Nebraska and a good portion of Kansas as well. Otherwise, average temperatures are expected for the remaining parts of Nebraska and Kansas. And looking at the next 3-month precipitation outlook, and again, relatively above average precipitation totals are expected for really all of Nebraska and almost all of Kansas, excluding the southwestern corner of the state. We grow almanac for the week ahead. Normally you see the high around, say, 58, and normally you see a low around 33. Unfortunately, this week, of course, we've had a string of above average weeks going the other way this week. 44 is all for the week ahead average high. The week ahead average low just 23. So even though it's the first full week of spring, it's kind of feeling more like winter this next week. And we're going to be starting that off in a big way. Of course, a blizzard potential on Monday as well. I think northern areas especially, look out for that. Some blowing snow, cold temperatures continuing through Tuesday. Warming up, though, by Thursday, although we are tracking a next system towards the end of next week on Good Friday, ahead of the Easter weekend. So you may want to pay attention to the forecast here throughout this next week. We'll certainly keep you updated throughout the week on all of those weather systems. And again, your Grow proverb kind of ties into today, Palm Sunday. If the weather is not clear on Palm Sunday, it means a bad year. That's kind of interesting. I've always kind of thought that, every year's a good year. Some years just better than others. Well, that is a check of your Grow Weather Report. Stay tuned next week when once again, it'll be time to grow.
Now to one busy mama who definitely has her hands full, times 4. Triplets are rare, but 4 healthy calves is almost unheard of. But that's the case for these Nebraska ranchers, Clifford and Jerry Sterner, welcoming quadruplets to their farm. 4 healthy calves, well, you'd probably have better odds playing the lottery. Thanks so much for sharing. They uploaded at nebraska.tv/chime in, and so can you. We check out the Bill Bosch collection of horse-drawn carriages when Grow returns.
I'm Jessalyn Hudson, and I'm proud to serve Nebraska agriculture because we provide food for the world.
Hi, my name's Lily Chevalier. I'm from Bennett, Nebraska, and I'm proud to be a part of National Ag Day as the 1% feeding the other 99%.
I'm Sherry Vinton, and I am privileged and proud to be the Director of Agriculture for the state of Nebraska. It's an honor to represent Nebraska's farmers and ranchers every day and the work that they do to provide quality, consistent products for consumers in Nebraska and all around the world.
Ag Outlook on NTV's Grow is driven by Cornhusker Toyota Honda, home of the Toyota Tacoma and Tundra trucks, and Nebraska's only dual Toyota Honda dealer.
There may not be a larger private collection of horse-drawn conveyances than what you're going to see here. Randy Reuter from Reuter Auction. The Bill Bosch collection, it's going up for sale here.
Absolutely. We're real pleased as a company to be selected to do this auction. Like our sale bill said, this is probably one of the largest privately held collections of this type of conveyances anywhere probably in the Midwest or even in the United States.
Just the variety and the kinds of pieces you're going to see here, one of a kind.
Yes, absolutely. It's so varied all the way from maybe a milk delivery cart to 2 stagecoaches to dray wagons that hauled freight and Coca-Cola wagon full of Coke bottles, and you know, it's just a great collection.
Some of these, I'm sure, have quite some history to them. You know, they go back quite a ways.
Yeah, the one particular one here is the Storrs Brewing Company wagon. It's sitting here with all of the kegs up on it, and that was actually dug out of a ravine about 20 miles north of Omaha, and they salvaged what they could. They could still see the Storrs emblem on the front panel, and Bill, over a course of time, rebuilt that whole wagon using the parts that he could salvage and then adding to it.
We don't think about it these days, but once upon a time, you hitched up a team of horses and you got stuff where it needed to be, and these wagons are just so unique and really tell a story.
We've had calls from all across the United States.
You have to be pretty honored to be able to be part of this one.
Really do. To be selected to sell this type of a collection is just really a big deal for us.
We leave you tonight with Grand Island 4th graders getting up close and hands-on with animal agriculture. We'll see you back here next time as we see how agriculture makes Nebraska grow.
NTV's Grow is brought to you by Aurora Cooperative. Tougher together, Aurora and you.